says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you loving is the one you're loving?
The trooper who sent this email to their superior claims that they are being asked to push small children and nursing babies back into the Rio Grande and being ordered to refuse water to migrants even in the extreme heat. This was all detailed in an email obtained by our partners at the Houston Chronicle from a confidential source with knowledge of border operations. The trooper sent this message to push for a series of rigorous policy changes, including revoking these directives and removing the buoys placed along the Rio Grande. You may remember last week, Governor Greg Abbott called for the installation of razor wire wrap buoys in the river. The trooper detailed several incidents of concern about migrant safety near Eagle Pass, including a 4-year-old girl who passed out from heat exhaustion after she was pushed back by the Texas National Guard, a pregnant woman who had a miscarriage after being stuck in the wires, and a teenage boy who broke his leg trying to navigate the water around the wire. Now, the governor said that he is doing whatever it takes to take the necessary steps to secure our border. He will also be challenging the lawsuits against him. A spokesperson with DPS did share an email from their director calling for an audit to determine if anything else can be done to improve migrant safety.
That was a report, I think a CBS report on how Governor Abbott has been treating people at the border. We know that the previous president built a wall that was shaky, it cost a lot of money. I think Steve Bannon took a lot of that border building money and did some stuff with it. But it was fear mongering, right, at its best, and letting people know, listen, no one wants anyone coming into their backyard unwelcome. But if people are running and walking through the harshest conditions anyone can even imagine in flip-flops in the heat with their children in tow, they're clearly not coming here to just, rape and pillage. They're coming because wherever they left was horrible. And those of you who are descendants of immigrants or immigrants yourselves, my ancestors came in the hulls of ships to build this country and got treated like trash for 400 years. And then afterwards as well through Jim Crow and lynchings. So it's just clear that this is very American to mistreat people when you know that the economy is bolstered by folk coming here, picking your apples and your blueberries and your asparagus and making sure that you have your avocados and making sure that your house is clean and making sure that your lawn is cut, like all of the things that you want. And we know that even this last president had people working on his resort at Mar-a-Lago who were not citizens of the United States of America. So you love it when you can exploit and enslave people, but you don't like it when people actually want to lift their heads up and do better in this country. And anybody that comes from an oppressed group should really be in line with these folk coming here with dignity.
Good rant. Perfect.
That's how I feel.
The thing people will say is, I got no problem with people coming here. I just wish they would come here legally or the way that my family came here. And you always got to say to them, oh, yeah, how did your family come here? Tell me about the immigration laws that were there or not there, because we could talk about the people they prevented from coming throughout the history of this country. But the issue is now that there's a whole different set of laws. Or no laws. There's no pathway the way your family came. That's the point. They always like, oh, they should come legally. They should come the way my family. They can't come that way anymore. They closed that way. They closed the door. They locked it. It needs to be unlocked. There needs to be work visas. There needs to be obviously normalized DACA recipients. It's preposterous that a child born here to an immigrant is not American. They're more American than the rest of us are. It's they don't know the arguments. They just make things up.
Well, no, they're being led into. So I'm going all the way back, right? So I did a little research because I told you I'm watching Warrior, and I love to watch TV shows like Outlander or whatever that will give you glimpses into history and allow you to go down your own rabbit hole, even though it's, made for television. But if you think about, first of all, let me just praise the Biden administration. In less than 2 years, the administration has allowed at least 541,000 migrants to enter the United States through the Immigration Parole Authority, which gives federal federal officials the power to authorize the entry of foreigners who lack visas, according to internal government statistics, court records, and public reports. The unprecedented use of the parole authority has allowed officials to divert migration away from the southern borders by offering would-be migrants a legal and safe alternative to journeying to the United States with the help of smugglers and, coyotes and all of that. And has also given the administration a faster way to resettle refugees as an attempt to rebuild a resettlement system gutted by Trump, who all he cared about was building a wall and demeaning people. I remember the folk on horseback with whips, right? For the Haitian folk coming to this country, running away from unthinkable things that were caused by this country. The United States meddled in this government, and as a result, people are hungry and destitute, and they want to come here, and then you meet them on horseback with a whip. So there's that. But I'm going back because watching the Warriors, it made me go down another rabbit hole. So the Indian Removal Act. So there were people that were already here before the so-called Americans came. Yeah. And under President Andrew Jackson, May 28, 1830, the president authorized a grant to take the land of people who are already on it west of the Mississippi in exchange for, a new border, right? And so a few of them went peacefully, but many resisted. And we're not even going to talk about the Trail of Tears. We're not even going to talk about enslavement yet. But then came the Chinese Exclusion Act. May 6, 1882, signed into law by President Chester A. Arthur, prohibiting all immigration of Chinese laborers for 10 years. The law excluded merchants, teachers, students, travelers, and diplomats. But the Chinese Exclusion Act was the first and only major U.S. law ever implemented to prevent all members of a specific national group from immigrating to the United States. Because what was happening is people were coming here and having children. And by law, right, the children should become citizens. So in this warrior that I'm watching, they're rounding up the Chinese folk who are, again, building a railroad and doing the laundry and doing all of the menial tasks, working for a third of the price or maybe even half the price that the Irish are working for in the factories and all of that. And they're getting their asses beaten. They're pushed into these slums and ghettos. And now they made it against the law to have more than like 3 families in a dwelling. So of course they rounded folk up to send them back to China. And one of the people they rounded up said, "I was born here," and they beat him up. It's like, that doesn't matter. So the Chinese Exclusion Act. And then after that, of course, we had the Immigration Act of 1924. Oh, yeah. So Congress enacted the first widely restrictive immigration law. And it was, again, aimed at mostly Asians, Japanese, Filipinos. And then we went to war. And then 1942 to 45, we rounded up Japanese citizens in America, people born here. We rounded them up and put them in concentration camps in this country, into camps under FDR's Executive Order 9066. And then the 14th Amendment gave citizenship to people born in America officially as an amendment, including formerly enslaved people. But my question is, did they really? Because as I'm watching, Warriors, your citizenship is really hanging on a string, Pete Dominick. Is really dependent upon who's in office at the time and whether or not they feel generous enough to not pass laws to strip you of your citizenship. And that we could break down immigration law by every presidential administration. But going back to the Immigration Act of 1924, which is signed into law by the great Calvin Coolidge, that's sarcasm. The law was a federal law designed to uphold white supremacy and the dominantism in the United States. Wait, you have to re-say that because hold on, honey, because your internet went out. I feel like they don't want you to say it. Say it again. It was designed to do what, Pete Dominick? Designed to uphold white supremacy and the dominance of white Protestantism in the United States. Is that written into the law? Is my microphone a white supremacist? It's not working. Is it saying it? Yeah, it's trying to shut you down. Yeah. Look up white supremacy and the Immigration Act of 1924. People can go look for themselves. History. Yes, it's important. And for everybody that, especially with this affirmative action that they used an Asian person to overturn it, it to me is the height of cynicism to use the very people that you prevented for so long from even being a part of this nation. You're just using them again and it's just a wedge item to keep and maintain your semblance of power. If you can only be superior by putting other people down, are you really? Or as Toni Morrison said, if you can only be tall by standing on someone, are you really tall? Like it's crazy to me, but this is where we are.
I think the most, can I just give folks the insight of recent history? Because I covered this when I was at SiriusXM and CNN. When President Obama was president, one of the huge agenda items was something called a comprehensive immigration reform. So a whole bunch of laws that would have both created the security things that Republicans certainly were pushing for, and the normalization of pathways to work and live, and a pathway to citizenship, actually. And it's crazy because even during that time when we were still very divided, several Republicans, I believe 12 Republicans, voted for that law, Karen. It came out of the Senate back to the House. And John Boehner, who was the Republican Speaker of the House at the time, historically, wouldn't take the vote up because he was afraid it would pass out of the Senate. If he had taken that vote up and it would have passed, what that would have done to create pathways to work and live and for citizenship and for education in the U.S., as well as billions more in security than even Trump ever asked for. They would have gotten the money that they always wanted. But the truth is, they never wanted a solution. They always want this as a wedge issue to divide Americans, to get votes and to get ratings in their stupid shows. But there's no special interest that's against this, that isn't racist in its base, because all sectors of the economy want immigrant labor, period.
You better say it. 866-801-8255. Let me correct myself. The horseback folk were using reins and excessive force, according to law enforcement and others, and video, excessive force, but they did not actually use the reins as whips. So I want to be absolutely pristine because it doesn't undermine the conversation at all. So let's clear it up, because those folk were still treated inhumanely, and period. 866-801-8255. So let me take Chris in, who called up to correct me. Was that sufficient, Chris in Texas?
You're sitting there spewing.
No. That's not how you come in. You say hello, because I'm sure you were raised by human beings. Hello. Hi, Chris in Texas. I am great. How are you?
Good.
Okay. Now, what do you have to say?
You're sitting there spewing.
No, first of all, no, there's no spewing. I think I speak very well, eloquently, with confidence.
I might have spewed.
No, I don't think you spewed either. I think we're having a conversation. So, Chris, are you able to engage in a conversation? Because you seem a little agitated.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's on your mind?
Saying that customs officers controlling their own horses, you should attend the rodeo.
No, Black people actually started rodeos. So there's the Buffalo Soldiers and the first people on horseback. The first person filmed on horseback was a Black man. So yeah, I'm very familiar with rodeos. I actually on an occasional Saturday will watch a rodeo. This is not the conversation that we're having right now. So I corrected myself. What other problem do you have?
You corrected yourself only when I called and they alerted you to.
Yeah.
That's
how it works. That's called responsibility.
That's what you do, right? You want me to stay? You want me to stay with it?
You should be happy.
Oh my goodness.
Should be. It's nothing more humble than someone who's hosting a show with their name on it, and you take a call and you say, you know what, I might have gotten that wrong. That's a great thing. That's a great thing when you're listening and say that. But the larger question should be about how Border Patrol handles these folks, and we could certainly talk about that.
Sure. Let's talk about it.
Okay, you first.
Yeah. Do you have what thoughts on the issue about immigration and what laws need to be created so that folks can come here and work legally, not in the shadows?
Well, when things are about to get ugly in Washington, D.C., and they put up a fence, fences work, right?
No, they never have worked anywhere.
So why do they put them up in D.C.?
That it might work. It might work.
Wait, Pete. Because I feel like it's Chris. What is your issue? And again, I didn't have to go to you. You do know, like, I have complete control over the show. I see the callers. I could have ignored you, corrected myself, and moved on. But I felt like you had something to say. So, what is your issue with immigration?
Come here legally.
Okay, so now the Biden administration has made a pathway for folk who are coming here to be here legally. Do you still have a problem with it?
Is it the pathway through the fence that's not completed, or is the pathway?
No, but you're obsessing over a fence because I imagine you live in Texas. But my question to you is, if America has meddled in other people's, which they have, Mexico, Haiti, we can go down the list, right? There's probably not a country that America has not had its hands in undermining, even Brazil, undermining the government, the economy, and now people are starving because they're human beings first, right? Chris, would you agree that these folk are human beings?
Absolutely. My grandparents came here
Ah,
through Ellis Island.
yes. Isn't that beautiful?
That's not a
Isn't that
path
beautiful?
anymore. My question is, what kind of a man, honest to God, not the kind I respect the kind of man who would risk his life for his family if he was being persecuted in his homeland, if he was escaping these horrible drug wars in Central America, which Karen said we certainly have a role in playing. And you're sitting here getting like upset that people are coming in this country illegally. These are men, often men, either sending or leading their families to escape. What man wouldn't do whatever he had to? So you're telling me, more specifically, you would never leave your state if you were being pursued by either the law or gang members. You wouldn't take your family and leave the state because it's illegal? Of course you would. Of course you would take your family and leave the state.
Wait, what? I think the gods don't want you to talk, but go ahead. What are you trying to say? Because you were breaking up.
You stand and protect your family. You don't run the other way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, protect your family from drug cartels, dude. You can protect your family from a drug cartel?
Absolutely. I'm retired from law enforcement. I'll protect them in a heartbeat.
Please. They would kill your whole family. They would kill your whole family in front of you, and then they would kill you. Stop it. I don't care how many guns you have or how much training you have. You're not protecting your family from the drug cartel. If they want you dead, you're dead. I don't care if you're all the Navy SEALs. You're dead.
Pete, what's interesting? There's a lot of keyboard cowards and telephone people who say they would do. Maybe the video game culture has made people believe.
A man thinks that because he's got guns and training that he could take on the drug cartel. Tell that to the entire Mexican government.
I suspect this is deeper than just a man stays and protects his family. And Chris, I'm not coming back to you because I don't feel like you are operating in the vein of the show, which is real dialogue. We're having you're spewing talking points. We're actually having a conversation. I don't feel like I have all of the answers. I don't feel like I see all sides of things, which is why I like to talk with different people, bring folk in like Pete. But, at the end of the day, if all you can do is parrot something that's been told to you because you watch certain things or you look at certain Reddit boards or all you do is look at certain YouTube channels.
Came through Ellis Island. Well, Ellis Island is a museum now. That's not how people come here anymore. So the laws are completely different. And if you don't know the laws, that's okay. But don't act like this is 1920. It's not.
This is why you're here. And let me say thank you, Pete. Your righteous indignation is welcome. And I feel like enough people don't have it. And I feel like we let a lot of things slide, that he felt compelled to call up to correct me on a factual error that I made, but didn't call to actually have a conversation about how we come together as a nation, more divisive conversation, talking about walls and things as if Texas wasn't Mexico. As if California wasn't Mexico. Like it's as if it's like
I'm looking over at my neighbor's house and he's all day I can see his TV through my window. He's got Fox News on, and he also has an entire team of people, I'm just going to go ahead and guess, are not documented mowing his lawn, Karen, while he's hating people. He's hiring them. That's the most quintessential American hypocrisy, that we take advantage of all their cheap labor, but we don't want them to come in. I mean, people don't understand economics. It's all about culture and this idea that I'm going to protect my family. No, let's be honest. Your family is being hunted. It's being hunted by a drug cartel or by
this.
You're leaving.
How much of this, Pete, Dominick, and everyone listening, is this about people needing to lord over someone? I said I was going to tie this to the strike of the actors and the writers in Hollywood. How much of this is about people maintaining their position of dominance over other people? So I'm happy if you're wiping my mother's ass I'm happy if you are cutting my grass. I'm happy if you clean my toilets, but I don't want you living next door to me. And I definitely don't want you in your kids in school with my kids. And I definitely don't want to see you in my neighborhood, right?
Well,
I don't want to see
water down my culture either. For years in my town, we've had this parade. And now you're coming in here and you're joining the parade, or you're doing something different, or you're counter programming. I mean, like that is a fear that people have all over the world, that they're just xenophobic. They're just afraid of people who are different from them, that are going to change what you've gotten comfortable with. I mean, for example, we have these new neighbors, and one woman's from Pakistan, and I don't have what it takes to tell her to stop feeding the deer. Don't come in here and feed the deer. They got ticks. You got to stop doing that. But I'm still welcoming her to the neighborhood. And at some point, I have to talk to her about those ticks.
You will.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you love is the one